Control your thoughts. Here's the thing. We either control what we think, and it is easier than you think to do, but we either control what we think or we let the environment start putting thoughts and ideas in our head, and then we start having this, and that's when stress and all that kind of stuff comes up, you know. So here was something that happened to me. Happened to be Friday the 13th in 2015. This was March in 2015. And so I had a 5 o'clock flight going to Orlando. And I wanted to leave the house at 3 o'clock. And as I remember walking out the door and I looked over at the clock and it said 3:08. And I'm like, 8 minutes.
You were annoyed?
No big deal. No, I was like, no big deal. I'm not even late, right? And so driving to the airport, and I'm getting close to the airport. There's a little bit of hills, and there's a big concrete divider in the middle with 3 lanes of highway on either side. And I'm driving, and I'm getting ready to go down. I go, that's an optical illusion because those headlights look like it's on this side of the divider. And I went down, and I came up the hill, and there was the car. And I turned, and there was another car in the 3rd lane over here. And I'm like, oh crap. And I turned, and then I was headed straight for the concrete wall. And I'm like, I don't think I can turn again because I think I'm gonna flip. And so I'm like, what should I do? And I hit, boom. And then I'm like, oh no, and I felt the car hit again, and I'm like, okay, just release, let go, try and stay relaxed. And the one thing that I absolutely remember is the change flew up.
Oh.
And I swear I could see like the quarters going, no. And I could like read the dates on them and stuff, and I was just like, oh, 1984. Everything slowed down. And so I came to rest in the middle of I was in the middle lane, and I looked around and I'm like, I don't see the car. I'm like, did I just imagine that? And I'm like, oh man. And so then a car came up over the hill, and I'm like, and he stopped. I'm like, oh, good, this guy's gonna help me. And he went, and he drove, and so I'm like, oh, okay. So I tried to get out, couldn't get out. The door was all mashed up, and so I was like, now I'm like, thank goodness, because I would have been standing on the highway. I probably would have been smashed. So I tried to start the door, tried to start the car. It wouldn't start, and I was like, God, please let this car start and let me get off the highway. It started up, I got off on the side of the road. So I called the police, and I go, hey, I think there's somebody driving on the wrong side of the road. I don't know for sure. And she goes, where are you? And I was like, here's the exit I'm at. And she goes, yep, police officer just saw you. We're gonna send somebody up your way. So he called a tow truck, and so they got there really, really fast. And so I was sitting there, and so I went back to the police officer, and I go, hey, I said, you got the car up there and everything. I said, can you take me to the airport? And he goes, I'm not a taxi service. And I was like, well, what about protect and serve? You know? he was like, go ask the taxi guy. So I went over, and I said, I don't have to stay with my car. And he goes, no. And so I was like, can you take me to the airport? So it was spring break. So we come pulling up to the Kansas City airport. It is packed outside.
You didn't even have to park.
Here's a tow truck with a busted up car on the back. I hop out, I'm grabbing my suitcases. I'm like, thanks, dude. Shut the door. I made my flight. So I made the flight. I get down into Orlando. I taught the class Saturday and Sunday. We had already set it up. The family was coming down Sunday night, and then we went to Disney World that next week. And the one thing that I did not do, everybody wanted to talk about what happened with the drunk driver. You know, what are they gonna do? You know, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't want to talk about it. I was like, I don't care about that. Because I was going through this program of how do you keep a positive mental attitude and all that. So I was trying to work it. And so I was like, I don't want to go there. How do I solve the problem? And so while, we would go to Disney, and then I'd come home and I'd sit up and I was Googling different cars and, different things. And so Friday, I had to fly to South Carolina to teach another class. The family went home. I taught the class. I came home. Monday, when I got home, my wife took me over to the car place. I was like, hey, I'm the guy you've been dealing with online. Because they had already called me back and said, your car's totaled. And picked up a car and went home. Wasn't really inconvenienced that much. walked away completely unscathed. I didn't have an injury, didn't have a scar, nothing, no bruises, nothing. And but to this day, I cannot go back and have any negative feelings because I never allowed myself to get upset. And that's the one benefit that I've learned from this positive mental attitude is if you don't get upset in the moment, you can't in the future go back and get upset about something. So that's a cool thing. So, some steps to develop a positive mental attitude. So here are some things. So you got to control your mental attitude. You got to prove to yourself that every adversity, every failure, every defeat, every bad thing that ever happens carries an equal benefit which can be turned into a blessing of great proportions. Don't dwell on any failures or unpleasant circumstances. Know that your greatest asset is your mind and you can shape your destiny by taking full possession of it. Understand that no one can hurt your feelings, make you angry, or frighten you without your full cooperation or consent. Learn the art of mastering your emotions and how to change back into a positive state. And refuse to listen to anyone unless they're prepared to give you evidence of the soundness of their advice. So this one right here, there's two. I'm going to give you some steps right here on how to turn your negative thoughts back into a positive thought very quickly. But I'm going to talk about this right here. Refuse to listen to anybody unless they're prepared to give you evidence of the soundness of their advice. So when I was putting this information together, I had a lot of people come up and tell me that I was stupid, that I was crazy, that it was impossible, all this kind of stuff. And I had one person come to me and say, this is a person that I worked with in the office, it wasn't Luther. And this person said to me, who do you think you are? And I go, what do you mean? Well, do you think that someone's going to pay you to come hear you talk? And I went, I don't know. And she goes, that's never going to happen. You should never do this. And I go, you know what? I go, I see the mountain that I have to climb. And not only do I see the mountain that I have to climb, I see where I am on that mountain right now, and I see where I have to get to. And you're telling me that there's not a mountain. So why should I listen to you? And she goes, what? And I went, exactly. And that became the statement that I made to every single person that told me that I was crazy or I was stupid and I shouldn't do this. I just started saying, you don't see the mountain that I see, so why should I listen? You don't see it. I can't listen to you. So, oops. Socrates. He said, he had a young student come up to him and he goes, yo, Soc, because they taught how they talk. And then he was like, did you hear about Plato? Did you hear what he did? And he was like, hold on. He goes, before you tell me anything, he goes, I want you to go through this 3-thought test. And he goes, first thing is what you're going to tell me true? Do you know for a fact that what you're going to tell me is true? He goes, I just heard about it right now. And he goes, all right, well, hold on. Maybe you can still tell me. He goes, is what you're going to tell me something good about Plato? He goes, man, it's juicy. And they go, okay. And so he goes, well, hold on, one more thing. He goes, is what you're going to tell me useful, that I can use this information? He goes, probably not. And he goes, okay, you don't know if it's true. It's definitely not good about him, and it's not going to be useful to me. I don't need to hear about it. And because that's what getting into gossip does, and it just brings your mind down into the gutter. And so that takes you away from having a positive mental attitude. So a little trick that I've learned, so this goes back to that number 6 that I was talking about. A little trick that I learned when something goes wrong. So if anything that goes wrong, somebody flips you off when you're driving down the road and you get upset, and right? The way to get out of that immediately is to go, what's a goal that I'm going after? That was the first thing we talked about on Thursday. What's a goal that I'm going after? You should have a goal in 6 different aspects of your life. Pick a goal, anything, and then go, what's something I can do today to get towards that goal? And it automatically takes you out of any negative thought because you go, oh yeah, that's where I'm going in life. And this is a step that I can take to get to that life. And if you do that, you don't get that negative emotion, and then a year from now, you can't go back. Because think about it, every single one of us can think of a situation. We can go back to college, we can go back to high school, we can go back to junior high school and think of something that somebody said and we can get upset. We can get bothered by it. But once you start doing this, and I have to work on it every single day, but if you work on this, I'm telling you, it will absolutely change your life, because you cannot go back to a negative emotion. You can't think of a certain situation and then get upset by it. And so it's not that life is all rosy, but it's when the bad things happen, you don't feed into it. And so you do have a happy life because of that, okay? And so you're not focusing on the problem, something bad happens, and you go, how do I fix this, right? So the choice is yours. You choose whether you're gonna pick up the rewards for concentrating and controlling your thoughts, or whether you're gonna pay the penalties for a wandering mind. Work on your positive mental attitude. You're one step closer to reaching your dreams. That's my talk for today.
Yay, thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you.